thank you very much for your talk today, Dirk. If you could just briefly describe some of the main findings that you found in your research, that would be really useful.
Okay, yeah, thanks for having me, by the way. It was really wonderful to be here. Our research was about how do you increase your likelihood of getting funding for your proposal, for your research idea. And one of the things that we did find is that if you have a very cohesive, dense co-authorship network as an applicant of a grant, and you are a woman, unfortunately you're less likely to get funding, and you actually get punished for having this cohesive network structure, versus men who are doing the same thing. They're working with the same authors over and over again. They're having this very cohesive, dense network structure. They're actually benefiting from that effect and more likely to get research funding for their proposal.
That's really interesting.
Yeah,
so with that in mind, what sort of recommendations do you have for practice for researchers?
Yeah, so we have two things. If you're a grant applicant and you're a woman, we suggest to reach out to different types of authors and to open up your network, so to say. And for grant funding organizations, we suggest that maybe they can do several things to take away this bias that is in this evaluation. For instance, you could consider having an anonymous submission process where you force people and evaluators to look into the idea and not so much into the CV or the demographics of the applicant. You could also train, for instance, reviewers and assessors to do this judgment process or a little bit better, get away with the biases that are in that process, that, for instance, punish women in a different way than men. And lastly, grant submission or funding organizations, they could also decide to limit the number of submissions that they get, because we know from other research that if there are lots of proposals that need to be evaluated and lots of ideas, that people use heuristics and that they then fall into these biases again that they might have. And so if you limit the number of submissions, you're probably able to prevent that from happening.
So removing gender bias from the application process.
Yeah, at least first of all, also becoming aware of it, that there is something like this happening, and then trying your best to remove it or to remedy at least the consequences that it can have.